Hey people, reviewing my first Japanese beer, and one of the few Japanese beers that I've had. I've tried a bunch of Hitachino Nest beers and some other ones that have showed up at the liquor store where I still kind of work. And this is one that I just showed up last fall, I think, maybe in the winter. Saison du Japon, the French way of saying Japan. But it's basically just a Japan Saison, or Saison of Japan, from Hitachino Nest. And the reason that it's a Japanese Saison is because they use yuzu, the kind of Japanese grapefruit, and also yellow koji yeast. So koji is the mold that's used to break down rice and a lot of things to make fermented Japanese things like sake, but also soy sauce and some more savory things. And they give a really good description of this beer on the Be United International website. Actually, this is a little crooked. I'm gonna fix that. I think that's better. Sort of. Yeah. On the Be United International Distributors website, and they say this unique Saison is brewed with koji, blah, blah, blah. But they do say that sake yeast is used in the primary fermentation, and secondary fermentation is done by Belgian yeast. So it's going to be not totally straight up. Sorry about this. I'm getting too perfectionist on this. But it's not going to be a straight up Saison first. And then they say yuzu juice is added at the very end of the fermentation to keep the fresh flavor. So it's a really interesting combination. They say it has a distinctive sweet flavor of the koji, the rice koji, and a little bit of acidity caused by the fermentation and yuzu. So this bottle is from October of last year, so it's like over half a year old. And I see a little bit of sediment hanging out in the bottom, so it may have dried out a little bit, maybe got a little more tart. We'll see. And they also, this is telling me they use some wheat malt in here, Pilsner malt, and then some pretty traditional European hops. So it's not going to be citrusy like a lot of American Saisons using American hops. But I've never had a beer quite like this. I've had some yuzu beers, but usually they're like either IPAs or sour beers. I haven't had a yuzu Saison like this, especially. I don't think I've had any beer with sake yeast either. Very highly carbonated. It reminds me quite a bit of the DuPont Saison I had recently. It has that massive head and really high carbonation, like the traditional Belgian Saisons. Ooh, very interesting aroma. Yeah, there's a little bit of a sort of active, fresh yeast aroma coming out of this. But kind of a light sort of pear, estery Saison yeast coming through. And it's not super citrusy, a little bit lemony, and not in your face grapefruit like some yuzu IPAs I've had. It's softer, somewhere more like a lemon and orange rather than grapefruit, I'd say. But since it is a little bit aged, it probably would be a little bit more of a fresh citrus juice thing happening. But it's pretty pale, not quite amber. A little bit paler than showing up there, but lots of spritzy carbonation. It seems like this must have been bottle conditioned, though they don't say. It's 5% alcohol. And there is some kind of a savory thing happening in the aroma that's not normal to just Saison yeast. I can't really put my finger on it. It's like a little bit musky or something like that. But it reminds me a lot of Belgian pales and things I've had from actually from Belgium. It's not. It doesn't. It seems pretty different from something that I might get from an American brewer who would use yuzu. I don't know if I get quite rice. Maybe there's a little bit of a sweet rice pudding sort of thing. Maybe it'll come out more in the flavor. Oh yeah, a lot juicier in the flavor. A lot more. Yeah, almost grapefruit juice. Zesty. Lemon, lime, orange peel. A lot of really nice citrus in the flavor that I'm not really getting in the aroma. The aroma is, yeah, somewhat savory. Very, very light and prickly on the tongue. There's a little bit of sweetness in the finish. That's nice. But at first it seems super dry because of all that carbonation. But it's not really bitter at all. They say 16 IBUs, which is super low for a Saison. Probably because they figured that the yuzu would bring a good amount of kind of acidity. It definitely has a slight tartness to it. Nothing like an actual Berliner Weisse or something. But it works out really well with the low bitterness and this touch of sweetness. Yeah, this beer is very nice. And just there's some kind of a slight savory rice flavor, not quite toasty rice. I wish I knew a little bit more about sake, then I could probably explain the flavors coming out of that a little bit more, because I think there's a lot of sake happening in here. It doesn't remind me of sakes I've had. There's maybe a little bit, but I haven't had too many sakes and only really bad ones. So this really isn't reminding me of those. It's also a lot lower alcohol than most sake. Let's pour some of the yeast in there. Real nice and carbonated. Beautiful head. Not quite as pillowy and rocky as the Saison du Japon, but really well made. And it's unique, but only subtly unique. But it totally works out for them. I would not mind having a little more hops in this one, but if you do that, then you'd probably kind of lose the subtler elements of the sake, yeast, and the yuzu. I wish I had tried this when I was a little fresher, so I could maybe notice those a bit more. But it's definitely not your average Saison. It's extremely pleasant, though. And I do like that, some slight musky, almost funk, not Brettanomyces at all. Well, there's something weird in there that I'm enjoying quite a bit. Right now, it's almost turning into almost a tannic oak sort of thing on the back of my palate. That is really nice. I'm probably just starting to notice a little bit of the bitterness from the hops finally. At first, it wasn't there much at all. And there's some herbal elements being added by them. They use Kent Golding, Hallertau, and Pearl and Pacifica, which is a little bit more of a fruity, newer variety. But the other ones are very earthy, herbal, European varieties. And nicely carbonated. But this is really well done. I'm going to give it an 82. It's very nice. And it's a great lower alcohol, refreshing dry beer that doesn't do it with too much sourness or too much bitterness. They do it in a slightly different way. The sake yeast and the yuzu juice just works really well in a little kind of grisette Saison, I think. So we'll do 82 for the Saison du Japon from Hitachino. Goodbye.